Good evening. Welcome to the City of Sugar Land City Council meeting. We're going to reconvene at this time. A little bit about our agenda. In a minute, Himesh Gandhi, Councilmember Gandhi, is going to lead us in the prayer and the pledge. That's going to be followed by 4 special recognitions. I'll come down off the dais. We'll do those out front. We have one of those as a very special recognition. And then we'll move into the public comment phase. I'd like to recognize, before we get started, I'd like to recognize we have our Texas State Rep, Rick Miller, is in the audience. Rick, could you stand? I didn't see anyone else, so at this time, Himesh, if you lead us in the prayer and the pledge.
Yes, Mayor. Please join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you for allowing us to sit together as a unified council on behalf of our community. We ask for your blessings to proceed with clarity on all matters and compassion to all. May we deliberate with wisdom and foresight to best nurture our beloved city with our citizens' best interest in mind. As we begin an exciting new chapter in Sugar Land's history, we must also take time to thank you for the amazing leadership our city has had for many, many years. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
For our first recognition tonight, we have a special recognition for the 16th anniversary of the Sugar Land Marriott Hotel. I'm going to ask Teresa Preza. Teresa, if you could come down. Jessica Hubble. Jessica. Melissa Raju, Nori Janjani, and Andrew Mursky. I get all those messed up appropriately?
They were great. They were great. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we are here tonight to celebrate, along with the Sugar Land Marriott, now officially named Houston Marriott Sugar Land. 16 years of operation, so it's their Sweet 16. Over $200 million revenue generated over the past 16 years, millions of dollars in hotel occupancy tax, helping fulfill a lot of our community amenities that both our visitors and our residents get to experience day in and day out. And that has been due to a lot of the leadership that we had over the course of the years. And I know, Andrew, you yourself have been part of the team for approximately 9 years. So thank you for all the hard work that you put in. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you to introduce our new general manager.
Thank you, Teresa. Got a couple little announcements. We're very excited to celebrate 16 years as partners with the City of Sugar Land. The partnership that the hotel shares with not only the city, but our local businesses and organizations has been key to our successes over the years. It's easy to see a very bright future as a cornerstone of Town Square and the City of Sugar Land. It only makes sense that with our birthday, we take on a greater role in promoting the area with our name change to the Houston Marriott Sugar Land. Get that right. I worked there. We're very excited about the change and feel this will expose the hotel and the city to a greater number of conventions, groups, social events, and individual travelers. The change will translate into increased revenues and tax generation for by our businesses in Town Square and the local area. And finally, I want to introduce our new general manager, Nori Janjani. As he said, the reputation for excellence and first-class service at the hotel has made his choice to join the team very easy. We're glad to have him here. So he's actually on his 3rd month already, so it's good to have him here. So we look forward to our continued partnership with the City of Sugar Land for the next 16 years and beyond. I do appreciate it, and thank you very much. Mr. Mayor?
There we go. We've got a certificate of recognition for the Houston Marriott Sugar Land Hotel 16th anniversary. October 1st, 2019 marks the 16th anniversary since the opening of the Marriott at Town Square and the official unveiling of the hotel's new name, Houston Marriott Sugar Land, and was the first building to open in Town Square and the first full-service hotel in Fort Bend County. Since opening in 2003, the Houston Marriott Sugar Land has generated over $200 million in revenue, which includes, but is not limited to, 384 wedding receptions. In 2015, now that's the number you need to remember right there. In 2015, the hotel reached #1 and finished the year at #5 for the best guest satisfaction out of all Marriott properties in North and South America. The Houston Marriott Sugar Land has been an unwavering community partner, hosting national artists performing at the Smart Financial Center, the host hotel for the Sugar Land Skeeters since opening day, and hosting 2 past governors and 1 past president. Houston Marriott Sugar Land is proud of being a business representative of Sugar Land. The city appreciates our relationship and continued partnership with the hotel as it embarks on their next milestone. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're big on pictures, so if we get everybody here together and we'll get council to stand up. Oh, you're right there. You got it, Roman?
Great. Everyone look up here, please. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
We'll airbrush that. Don't worry about that. That's no big deal.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Yes, sir. Our next recognition is America Recycles Day. And I'm going to ask Taylor Dinesty to come down, Vicki Geist, and I think we have some of our Sugar Land Beautiful Youth Board, Yasmin Feghali and Recep Yilmaz. Did I butcher that? I'm sure I did.
You did great.
Taylor, why don't you tell us about that?
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll probably turn it off.
Hello? Okay, thank you
There you
again. So the city has recognized America Recycles Day numerous times over the years. We always like to take the opportunity to educate people on our recycling programs and how to recycle responsibly. This year, we feel it's even more important, though, to recognize America Recycles Day because of all the changes that we've seen in the recycling market recently. So in response to these changes, the city's Solid Waste Division has initiated our Future of Recycling Education campaign, where we're utilizing social media and the city's webpage to provide some background information on the recycling market and also to emphasize the importance of reducing consumption and reusing products. So I'd like to encourage everyone to check out our Future of Recycling webpage. It's housed under the solid waste portion of the city's website. And then if you're not already, to go ahead and follow the city on Facebook so you can get our updates through that platform as well. While I'm here, I would like to recognize Vicki and KSLB for their contribution to our education and outreach programs. We've had a very successful partnership over the years, and I definitely look forward to all the work that we're going to do together in the future.
Hi, everybody. I would just like to echo what Taylor said, and also to please follow Keep Sugar Land Beautiful on Facebook and Instagram. We also do a lot of social media posts. And just remember to recycle, rethink, and reuse. So we can all do this together. Would you like to say anything? No? Okay. Yasmin is on the Keep Sugar Land Beautiful Youth Advisory Board, and they are a very vital part of our organization. So we appreciate all the time and energy they devote to the city and to Keep Sugar Land Beautiful. Thank you.
Yasmin. We have a proclamation, America Recycles Day, November the 15th, 2019. Whereas America Recycles Day, a Keep America Beautiful program, is the only national recognized day and community-driven national awareness initiative dedicated to promoting and celebrating recycling in the United States. And whereas in its inception in 1997, communities across the country have participated in America Recycles Day on November the 15th to promote recycling awareness, commitment, and action. And whereas the City of Sugar Land and Keep Sugar Land Beautiful recognize the importance of protecting and preserving our natural resources, adopting conscientious habits that will improve our daily lives, and bring about a cleaner, safer, and more sustainable environment. And whereas the city and KSLB encourage businesses, nonprofit organizations, schools, and individuals to celebrate America Recycles Day by taking the Be Recycled pledge. Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Yasmin.
Thank you.
Can we get a picture? Get a picture. Roman, you're going to be busy tonight.
Oh, yes, sir. All right, great. Everyone look up here. All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Taylor, Vicki, thank you. Yeah. Thanks. Yasmin. Vicki, I think you're going to stay up. Yasmin. Our next recognition is for Arbor Day, which is November the 6th, and I'm going to invite Colt Yorick, our streetscape supervisor, William Hasdick, our Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation, Fenglin Du, our Park Development Manager, and then we've already got Vicki and Yasmin up here. Colt, are you going to introduce it?
Sir, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
All right, the first Arbor Day celebration was over 145 years ago, and it was an event that was to basically help plant the barren farmland landscape of Nebraska, and it has evolved into an event that is celebrated worldwide. And trees have become an iconic part of Sugar Land's landscape, and this asset can provide ecological, emotional, and fiscal benefits through their aesthetic beauty and their direct relation to property value. Annually, the city continues to take steps to promote a healthy tree population, which can be seen in efforts like tree management programs within right-of-way services, parks with Funglin and Wheel, tree protection and mitigation during new development and construction activities, which is kind of overseen between the planning department and engineering. Reforestation efforts by partnering with partners like Vicki and KSLB, with our Trees Across Sugar Land event, and the city's annual commitment to acquire the designation of Tree City USA. And today here to talk a little bit more about Trees Across Sugar Land event, which is also the city's observation of Arbor Day, is Vicki. And Vicki, I'll let you.
Thank you, Colt. We had a very successful Trees Across Sugar Land last Saturday. We had 170 people out planting 250 5-gallon native hardwoods and sowing 100 wildflower seeds. So we had a very successful event. This was our 18th event. We started in 2007, and some years we had multiple events. So this is a very successful program. We love our trees in Sugar Land, and we want to make sure we continue to plant them, keep everybody happy with trees.
If you get some of the calls I get about cutting down those trees, yes, ma'am, we do love our trees in Sugar Land.
I do get those calls.
I know you do.
Get those calls. Thank you.
We have a proclamation for Arbor Day on November the 6th of 2019, whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees, and this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is observed throughout the nation and the world as a special day for planting trees, and communities will join together at Arbor Day ceremonies to recognize the benefit of trees. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for homes, fuel for fires, and other wood products, and in our city, increases property values and beautifies our community. And whereas the city of Sugar Land has been recognized as a Tree City USA for the 8th consecutive year by the National Arbor Day Foundation, and exhibits the commitment to maintain a healthy tree population, as trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Vicki, thank you for all that you do for us.
Thank you very much, and I would just like to thank you, City Council and City staff, because our partnership, I think, is invaluable to everybody. So we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Get a picture.
All right, great. Everyone look up here, please.
Our next recognition is very special. I'm going to ask Alan to come down and join me, but I'm going to also ask City Council to come down and join me in the front. I'm also going to ask Alan's family if they'd come up to the front and join him. Where'd Claire go? There she is. Claire, why don't you join Alan? You know, tonight I have the pleasure of recognizing Alan. Alan is going to retire on January 31st of 2020 after being the city manager for 19 years. They've prepared a bunch of stuff for me to say, but I'm going to just talk to you from the man that I know and I've had a chance to work with literally since I went to he and Mayor Thompson in 2000, and I guess it was 2010, and was getting ready to join the Planning and Zoning in 2000, joined the Planning and Zoning Commission, asked their advice. They gave it. Later, when I came back from Libya and thought about running for elected office, I once again came to Alan and Jimmy. Jimmy was then mayor, and said, I'm thinking about running for council. They encouraged me to do that, and of course, here we are now. Alan is both not only a personal friend, but he's the CEO of our city. He is singularly the most competent financial professional that I've encountered in my 40-plus years of working, not only in the public sector, but in the private sector. And I thought that I was pretty good at mentoring people, but as I've watched him through the number of years I've been involved, ever since I got on the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2000, I've watched him mentor a very deep and strong bench. The city manager that we'll later take action on tonight, our new city manager was mentored by Alan. Our assistant city managers, the three of them that we have right now, were mentored by Alan. And virtually every director that we have in the city right now, Alan has had his personal touch upon not only their careers, but on their development. He's a very a special person, not only a great city manager. So with that, I'm going to read a proclamation. I do want to let you know that, let me get to some of the recognitions he's had so I don't mess those up. In 2005, he was recognized for his professional leadership and accomplishments as the Administrator of the Year Award from the Texas City Management Association. In 2011, he was recognized as the TCMA Mentor of the Year. And recently, he received, just a week ago, the International City Managers Association recognizing him, giving him their ICMA award for career excellence. So, Alan, let me...
Mayor, that picture's way too big.
I'm sure they didn't tell you that they were doing that, but that's only appropriate.
And Mayor, I shouldn't be standing next to it because it's about a 10-year-old picture.
Yeah, you're looking good, Alan.
Thank you, thank you.
Alan, let me yield the floor to you.
Well, first I want to introduce my family, my dear wife, Claire. And let's see how we have Kyle Manti and his wife Adrienne, soon to be Troy, and Katie Manti and Kelsey Manti, and then Adam Bogard and Sarah Bogard and Benjamin Bogard and newly arrived Charlie Bogard. This is the one that's going to occupy some of my free time. Oh, excuse me, and Nancy, my dear sweet daughter-in-law, who gave me Charlie.
You better
And-
not forget her, Alan.
No. And did I leave anybody else out? Oh, yes. And my other two grandchildren and daughter-in-law are not here tonight. They had other commitments that they couldn't get out of. And then I would like to specifically thank my executive team, and particularly Jennifer May, for preparing the application for the award that I received last week, Mayor.
Can we have, I know we've got staff in the audience, if the staff could please stand. If you'll look around, these are some of the men and women that have been mentored by Alan. Many of them came as part of Alan's leadership when he was, we call it up north, but you've been with us for so long. He's a Sugarlandian. You know, it speaks a little bit, it actually speaks a lot to the kind of leadership he's provided, to the kind of man that he is. We're going to very much miss him. The good news is former Mayor Thompson and myself have made him promise to stay in the community, and he's agreed to do that. Claire, I don't know if you know about that commitment yet, but he said he wasn't going to go anywhere. So please, if you would, please stand and let's recognize Alan Bogart. Alan, we've got a special certificate of recognition. The International City County Management Association has awarded City Manager Alan Bogart the award for career excellence in memory of Mark E. Keene for being an outstanding chief local government administrator, enhancing the effectiveness of local elected officials, and consistently initiating creative and successful programs. Alan was recognized in October of 2019 at the ICMA 105th Annual Conference in Nashville, Tennessee, highlighting his contribution to the award-winning success of the city of Sugar Land. He is recognized for his involvement in the development of Sugar Land into a destination city with I know, Charlie, he's that good. With a robust economic development program, a reputation for strong financial management, low taxes, a AAA bond rating, and recognition as the best and safest city to live in the country. We recognize your 40 years of municipal service, and we look forward to being a part of your retirement plans for you to come by early and often. So,
Thank you very much.
congratulations. Can we get everybody kind of pulled together? Yes, sir. Pleasure. Tell people to go vote. You're right. What? Tell people to go vote because I got to make Alan. Alan.
Oh, thank you very much.
And now we're going to swear in the boards and commissions. So I'm going to ask everybody to come down. We're going to do it all at one time. Isn't that going to be fun? Sugar Land boards and commissions, we've got the Animal Advisory Board, the Building Standards Commission, the Independent Ethics Review Board, the Parks Board, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Sugar Land 4B Corporation, and the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And before I administer the oath of office, these are the men and women that volunteer their time to serve on boards and commissions that are really the heartbeat of the city of Sugar Land. You're going to have to get a little bit, come on up a little bit. There you go. As I said, this is kind of the heartbeat of Sugar Land, and I think this is one of the primary reasons that make us different is because of people like you all that volunteer. So for the oath of office, if you'll repeat after me and use your own names and then your own boards and commissions, this is going to be kind of fun. I, you raise your right hand, please. I, there we go, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of that always gets people there. Of the city of Sugar Land. County of Fort Bend. State of Texas. And will to the best of my ability preserve. Protect. And defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. And of this state and the charter. And ordinances of the city. And I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, or promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or valuable thing, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or the confirmation thereof, so help me God. Welcome. And thank you for volunteering. And now if we could kind of get everybody to kind of come together a little bit more than where you are right now. Y'all are doing great. Hey, Larry. How you doing? Good to see you. Roman, you're going to have to get you a taller chair. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Bye, lady. Hi, lady. Good to see you, too. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jen.
Yeah, no, it's all yours. It's all yours. You did such a great job.
Came in 2007 under Mayor Wallace, and I'll tell you what, those were the two that brought me to volunteer to the city.
Well, that's perfect.
Can you pass them to stay for ethics training?
Yes, and if I could ask you to remain, we're going to do ethics training next. I wrote it down, Meredith. I didn't follow it. Yes, sir. Thank you. Which is typical. Now we're going to move on to item number 2, public comment. If there's anybody that wants to do any public comment, it has to be an item on the agenda. If you come down to the podium, you'll be allowed 3 minutes. Anybody? Hearing none, we're going to move on to item number 3, oath of office. Meredith, wait a minute, we've done that. Annual ethics training. I left out the public comment part. Annual ethics training, Meredith. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. We are here as we are annually on this wonderful night where we get to celebrate all kinds of wonderful things, including welcoming our new boards and commission members. So as required by the City Code of Ordinances, you will get your annual ethics training. Just to make this fun, every year I pick a game and you get to play along. You've done Monopoly in the past, you've done Jeopardy. Tonight we're going to play Trivial Pursuit 2019 Ethics Edition. I invite all of you to participate because it all applies to all of you. So who gets to play with us tonight? All the members of council, all the members of the administrative and advisory boards, and occasionally the former members of council and former advisory board members. And just for fun, sometimes we loop in candidates for city council. We're very inclusive. So if you want to win Trivial Pursuit Ethics Edition, there are 4 things to keep in mind. You must be independent, impartial, and responsible. You must act with integrity, merit the trust and support of your public, be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars, and take no official actions that would result in a personal benefit to you that would conflict with the interest of the city. So there's 8 major rules of this game. You must disclose conflicts of interest, disclose gifts, certain relationships. You may not do business with the city. You may not do representations and appearances at other boards except under very specific circumstances. You may not misuse city property. You may not participate in procurement process. And we're going to talk to you about campaign activity. Highly confident you will all get your little pie pieces this evening. So let's go through each of those rules. Conflict of interest. A conflict of interest would something that would be voting on a matter that would confer a special economic benefit to you, your spouse, your child, or your parent, your employer, your client, a substantial customer of your employer, any business entity for which you serve as a director, general partner, office, or other policymaking position, except for unless we appointed you to that board, and any non-governmental civic group that you may serve on as an officer or a director. Conflict of interest also arises if you, your spouse, your child, or your parent happen to own stock or instruments of debt greater than 10% of the value of that company, or real property if you have an equitable or legal ownership greater than $2,500. So what must you do? You must disclose. You must disclose and file a conflicts disclosure statement with the Office of the City Secretary no later than 5 p.m. on the 7th business day in which you discover you have one of those conflicts. Once you file that form, you must abstain from participation in, discussion, and vote on any matter during the preceding 12 months that you filed this form. And just to make sure that you are not influencing any of your fellow colleagues on council or any of the boards of the commissions, we ask that you step outside the room for the duration of that discussion and vote. So gifts. It's coming up on the holiday season. We all like to receive gifts, and under state law and the Code of Ethics, you get to brag to us about what gifts you may receive if those gifts come from vendors. So if a vendor gives you a gift of lodging, transportation, entertainment, or food, you must report it to the city secretary's office once that dollar value from that specific vendor reaches $100 within a rolling 12-month period. You have 30 days to brag about it. Now, you notice there's a little asterisk after the word food. That's because if you are at dinner and you're at the same table as the vendor and he happens to be talking to you about city business while you're enjoying your dinner, you get to spend up to $500 of quality time with that vendor before you have to tell us all about it. So vendor relationships, state law is very specific on this. You get to tell us if you are related to a vendor, either by employment or by blood or marriage. So additional rules. Doing business with the city. You may not enter into a contract with the city where you receive greater than $1,000 in aggregate. That applies to you, your parents, your spouse, or your children. Representations. During the office and for 2 years after, you may not appear before any board or commission that you sit on to represent any person or entity in a matter that is adverse to the interests of the city. So there's a couple additional rules I'd like to hit on for you. Appearances. You may not appear before a board or commission to represent a third party's interest. If you decide to go on social media or write a letter to the editor, that's perfectly fine. That's within your purview. All we ask is that you make sure that you know which hat you're wearing. So when you're making that disclosure, that statement on social media, we ask that you say, in my capacity as a City of Sugar Land council member, as a Planning and Zoning Commission member, or in my capacity as a personal citizen. You always have a First Amendment right to speak your voice. We're happy to let you do that. We just want the public to know which hat you happen to be wearing when you are speaking that opinion. Additionally, misuse and disclosure of official information. Serving on a board and commission lets you know all kinds of juicy stuff about the business of the city. We ask that you keep that to yourself and do not use that to benefit your personal finances or that of your employer, your spouse, your children, or your parents. Participation in procurement. The city does a lot of business with a lot of people. A lot of people want to do business with the city. We pay on time, and we have lots of wonderful projects you want to put your name on. So to do this, we must follow state law, and we must make sure that we act with the highest level of ethics. And so, under our Code of Ordinances, you cannot knowingly obtain, disclose, or discuss bid or proposal information or source selection information with the bidder, proposer, or contractor before the bids are received or voted to award the contract. So basically what that means, if a vendor comes up to you and says, hey, I know you're going to build this great big road to this great big subdivision. I want in on that. You say, that's great. I need you to go talk to the purchasing office. They will give you all the information you might possibly need so that you can do that information. And if you decide to take the extra step and you want to go ahead and help them, that's fine. You're disqualified from voting. And if we find out about that, vendor is disqualified from participating in the process. It's also a little violation of this code of ethics, and you will not get your little pie piece if you do that. Campaign activity. In the unlikely event that somebody gets mad at the city and wants to sue us, occasionally happens, if they decide to sue us for an amount greater than $25,000, you cannot accept campaign contributions from them. Should they want to give that campaign contribution to you, you say, thank you so very much, I cannot accept it, and you must return it. So I went through that pretty quickly. Should you want to have a full text of those rules, you're more than happy and welcome to go to the Code of Ethical Conduct, Chapter 2, Article 4 of the Code of Ordinances, and you can read the entire thing in all of its glory. So, if you happen to have questions, because I did go over it quickly, you can ask for a written ethics opinion from my office. And if someone doesn't follow the rules, what are your options? Well, you can file a written complaint with the city secretary's office. The city attorney will then review that complaint, myself, and then if it meets a number of factors, we will send it to the Independent Ethics Review Board to review it, and they may enter sanctions. So what is a complaint? What is a requirement? It must be in writing, signed and sworn, must be filed with the city secretary's office within 1 year of the date the violation is alleged to have occurred, or 1 year that you have determined that it has occurred. And the complaint must have the name, address, and telephone number of the person who's filing the complaint, as well as the name and office of the person who has allegedly violated the Code of Ethics. And if possible, any facts and information that you can provide to support your complaint so that the Ethics Board does have the information to be able to review and investigate. So once this has been filed, it gets transferred over to my office, and I have an opportunity to review it. I will verify that the filing deadline of 1 year has been met, that the officer accused of violating the code is subject to the code. The code only applies to elected and appointed officials, not city employees. So if someone's mad at somebody in the Parks Department, that's not the right venue to go to. And it must be a violation that's alleged as regulated by the code. So if we have a parking violation, that also does not go to the Code of Ethics. And finally, the complaint must be signed and sworn. If those 4 items are met, I say, good job, put a check on it, and pass it on to the City Independent Ethics Review Board. If those 4 items are not met, the complaint is dismissed. We give it back to the person filing the complaint and said, we're sorry, we cannot accept it. You have not met the 4 prerequisites for review. So once it goes to the Independent Ethics Review Board, what happens? Well, the Ethics Review Board will look at it, and they have an opportunity to dismiss the complaint if there's as frivolous for 4 factors, such as the nature and type of any publicity surrounding the filing of that complaint, the degree of the participation of the person filing the complaint in helping that official violate the Code of Ethics, anything they want to do for publicizing it, and any relationship between the accused official and the person filing the complaint, or anything that they know that it is in fact a frivolous complaint. They can also dismiss it because the person, the official relied on a good faith or formal written opinion from me, basically a get out of jail free card. If those are not met, they can then investigate it. The board has the ability to request documents and witness statements. While they're doing the investigation, the review board can enter into a settlement agreement with the person accused of violating. The person may say, you know what, I did violate the code. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it. It'll never happen again. And the review board will say, you're right, and this is what we're going to do, and the process stops. If they don't get a settlement agreement, they will then conduct a public hearing open to the public. Obviously, notice will be in the paper, and they'll conduct a mini trial and have witnesses and evidentiary proceedings. And at the conclusion of that, if the board has determined a violation exists, they can impose sanctions. So what are those sanctions? We have 1 being the minimum, 7 being the worst, and items 3 through 7 will be published in the newspaper. You will note that items 6 and 7 does require action by City Council. Number 6 is the removal of an appointed official. Because you appoint them, you have the responsibility to unappoint them if you should agree with the Independent Ethics Review Board's recommendation. Number 7 applies to City Council. Because you are voted in, you can only be voted out. And so they can make a recommendation of a recall, but that is not the final decision. The citizens would have to file a petition and then hold an election to accomplish that. So now that I've very quickly gone over the rules, let's play. So we have a number of categories. Those rules I told you about: conflict of interest, the disclosures, business with the city, procurement, representation, appearances, misuse of city property, and the last final one is campaign contributions. So everybody gets to play, so shout out the answer. So first question, item on the council agenda. There's a contract with a vendor for which a council member's spouse works. Conflict of interest?
Yes.
And what must they do? File a form within 7 business days. Excellent. Oh, this is going to go so well. Number 2, I don't want to see council agenda again. There's a contract with a vendor for which a ZBA member works. Conflict?
No.
No issue, because council is not sitting on the ZBA board. Not a problem. Conflicts, I'm sorry, I almost read you the answer. Item on P&Z agenda. It's a rezone of property that is owned by a planning and zoning commissioner. Does that P&Z member have a problem?
Yes.
And what must they do?
File the form, disclose.
And then they must
Recuse.
abstain and leave the room. Yes. Gosh, you guys pay attention. Number 4, P&Z agenda. Commissioner serves as CEO of a company that has a strategic partnership with the applicant. Do we have a violation?
Yes.
Once again, they're going to file the
Form.
disclosure form and walk out the door. I knew you guys would pass. You get every single little pie piece. So in the fabulous word of disclosures, somebody has offered you 4 tickets to the World Series game. Obviously, I wrote this a few weeks ago, from a vendor, and because you are a strong Astros supporter, you can hardly wait to go. Can you accept those tickets?
If you disclose it.
Yes, you just have to brag to us about it. So you file that disclosure form. And you're just having a little bit of a roll. You also got offered a round-trip airline ticket to Hawaii because you're sad the Astros didn't win. Can you take that?
No.
Maybe. If the contract is awarded, you must disclose it. If it's not awarded, you get to take it because they're not a vendor of the city. They're just a bidder. It's tricky.
There's also what is called,
Ethic,
how
moral-
does it look?
Yeah, there is the smell test. Yes, sir. And I'm sure as you're sitting on the beach in Hawaii, you'll think about it, what it looks like. Yes.
I'll disagree with the attorney on that.
And I appreciate you having a very high level of ethics, Mayor. Helps me sleep at night. So you have 2 tickets to a nonprofit fundraising gala, and it's a dinner and a show. So we have food and entertainment, and it's paid for by a vendor.
Disclose.
There's a little nuance here. It's on the dollar amount. If the vendor is sitting there, you get up to $500 until you have to disclose. If the vendor gives you the tickets, says has a great time and goes to the movies or goes to Hawaii, then only $100 until you get to disclose. So your neighbor likes you so much and they give you dinner for 2 at a local steakhouse. Do you report it? No. No, because it's based on personal relationships. You only have to report gifts if it's from a vendor of the city. And let's see, a dinner with the CEO of a development company wants to talk to you about an SPA recently entered into with the city. Is there a problem?
Yes.
There's not a problem as long as you disclose that $100. We're rolling along, so I'm not going to make you do all of these. You're just so ethical. So there's an item on a council agenda, contract with a vendor for which a council member's spouse works. What actions, if any, must the council member take? And does it matter if the spouse is an employee or the owner of the company?
It does make a difference, but you have to, in any case, you got to fill out the form, disclose, and
Excellent answer, that's right. It does matter if they're an employee or the owner, but either way, you must disclose it and you must abstain and not participate. If they are the owner, the council cannot actually act on the contract because the council person would be receiving a benefit greater than $2,500 because the contract would be $50,000 or more to go in front of this board. Let's see. Okay, let's do representation and appearances. There's an application at ZBA for a variance 2 houses down from a P&Z commissioner member. Does it matter if the commissioner is for or against the vendor? Can he go in front of the board and express his opinion?
Yes.
It's okay if he wants to express his opinion as long as he makes it quite clear he's wearing his personal hat because he has the right to represent his own interest. He cannot represent somebody else's interest. And because it's not the same board that he serves on or she serves on. A council member has a variance application at the ZBA. Can the council member appear at ZBA?
Yes.
Only as an individual.
Yes, sir. Same scenario. You just have to identify which hat you're wearing. So let's see. Misuse of city property and campaign contributions. During an executive session, council discusses the terms of an economic development offer. Council member happens to know the potential development will cause the adjacent property's values to skyrocket. Prior to council action on the offer, the council member goes out and purchases the adjacent property. This is such a crazy hypothetical because I know you will never do this, but is that a violation?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, your last question. A local businessman, unhappy with the recent zoning decision that has affected his property, brings suit against the city alleging $500,000 in damages. After he files this lawsuit, he starts going around and making contributions to your campaign. Is this a violation?
Yes.
You need to return it. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. You have gotten every single pie. Have a good evening.
Great job, Meredith. Item number 5, review of the consent agenda. Item number 6, the
Hey, Mayor,
consent agenda.
I was
Yeah.
going to just make one comment on that last deal.
You may.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think it's important for the boards and commission members to know that although the city attorney sits with the city council, anyone on the boards and commissions can come talk to you and ask you a question about an issue that they may ever have.
Absolutely. I would greatly encourage and invite you to come talk to me before you act, because as you may have recalled during one of those slides, I can give you a written opinion that's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card. So if you act on my advice and I was wrong, I'm in trouble and you're not. So I always encourage questions because it's much better to find out in advance if what you want to do is proper or not.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Absolutely, thank
Mayor?
you.
I wanted to recognize John Welch, Lamar CISD trustee, is with us tonight.
Oh, thank you. John, can you stand? There you go.
Polls close in 40 minutes. Polls close in 40 minutes.
Polls close in 40 minutes. No, shit, so it's important to vote. Let me let everybody clear. Everybody that wants to leave.
Everybody left.
Meredith, there's that get out of jail free card right there. Item number 6, consent agenda. All these items are considered routine. We'll take them on one motion unless a council member wants to pull an item, at which time we'll take that item only. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion by Jacobson, second by McCutcheon. You'll vote at this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Item number 7, contracts and agreements, 7A. Consideration of and action on authorizing the execution of a contract with Leland Bradley Construction in the amount of $364,392 for the Oyster Creek Airport Maintenance Bridge Construction, CIP AP 1901, and authorizing a budget amendment in the amount of $179,974 to fund CIP AP 1901 from the Airport Fund. We have Jorge Alba, our Senior Engineering Manager. Jorge.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm here tonight to seek approval on the construction contract and budget amendment for the airport replacement bridge. But before I start, let me give you a little bit of background on this project. The Sugar Land Regional Airport was built in the 1950s. It was named Hall Field back then. It was a private airport. And the wood maintenance bridge was built back at that time. I have a picture of the bridge right here that you can see. What happened is during Harvey, the flow velocities in the channel and the debris accumulation under the bridge actually produced severe damage to the bridge. The intermediate spans, and you can see in the picture, were displaced more than 10 inches horizontally. And not only during Harvey, but during any other floods events, the bridge is not accessible because it's usually underwater. So a condition assessment that we had made in 2018 by a professional structural engineering company assessed the bridge and determined that the bridge is not safe and is damaged beyond repair and should be replaced. Here is the location of the bridge. It's located in the northeast corner of the runway, west of Highway 6, and is used to cross Oyster Creek from the airport into the north bank of Oyster Creek. The red line here is the existing bridge that will be replaced with this yellow line here, which is just west of the location of the existing bridge. The initial scope of work considering replacing the bridge with a similar bridge that is a 12-foot wide, 60-feet long bridge with a loading capacity of 10,000 pounds. However, when we performed a hydraulic analysis, we found that replacing the bridge with a similar bridge will produce adverse impact on the water surface elevation of Oyster Creek. In addition to that, the ongoing airport master plan identified future construction projects on the north side of Oyster Creek that will require a bigger and stronger bridge with larger required loading capacity. Therefore, the new design bridge will have a loading capacity of 54,000 pounds. It will be 15-foot wide, 80-foot long, and it will be 18 inches above the base flow elevation of Oyster Creek, allowing access to the north bank of Oyster Creek during flooding events. Due to the close proximity of the bridge to the runway, we find out that FAA required that when a crane is in operation that close to the runway has to be shut down. So to avoid any impact on the operation of the airport, it was decided that any installation of the piers and bridge abutment that will require the use of a crane will be done at night. So the staff, engineering and airport staff that we work in coordination during the scoping of the project, we identified that these modifications to the bridge design in conjunction with this requirement for night work will result in a cost increase from the original estimate. Therefore, staff preferred to bid and receive qualified bids to determine the amount of additional funds required and if it would be necessary to have any FY20 budget amendment before we proceed. So the airport fund balance will be used to cover any additional funds required at this time. The design and bid documents for the bridge were completed in August of this year. The bridge was advertised for bid on September. We received six bids on October 3rd. And here I'm presenting a summary of the companies that submit bids and the bids amounts. Just want to mention that Leland Bradley and Construction was assessed as the low reliable bid, or responsible bid, I'm sorry. This company is out of I just went blank here. This company has performed several projects for several municipalities and counties in Texas and have done similar bridge projects and airport work too. So our consultant evaluated all the bids and evaluated and checked all the reference and recommend to use Leland Bradley and Construction to have a contract with the city. Leland Bradley and Construction was going to have a representative here tonight, Mr. Bradley Smith. Unfortunately, he called me this morning that he got sick and he couldn't be here tonight. So the construction contract is for $364,392 with a 5% contingency, material testing. The total fund needed is $397,000, $350. The available funds in CIP AP 1901 currently is $217,376. Therefore, the additional budget amendment from the airport fund balance will be $179,974. If approved by City Council tonight, we will give notice to proceed to the construction company in November 2019, and we expect the substantial completion to be done by February 2020. This project is located in a restricted area of the airport, therefore it will have no direct impact on the residents. And during the construction, engineering department and airport staff will maintain constant communication with FAA and with the Gulf Coast Water Authority, which are the stakeholders that will be impacted the most by this project. So we request City Council to approve a construction contract with Leland Bradley Construction, Inc. in the amount of $364,392 for the airport maintenance bridge construction, CIP AP 1901, and authorize a budget amendment for $179,974 from the airport fund balance to CIP AP 1901. Engineering staff, myself, and we have some staff from the airport are here to answer any questions, if City Council may have any questions.
Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I think we got our money's worth out of the bridge. Anyway, now this bridge is longer, wider, and taller than the other one, and based on one of your previous slides, it looks like it's going back in a slightly different location. Is there any reason it's not going back in the same
It's
location?
going to be about 70 foot to the west of the existing bridge. The thing is, when the bridge was built back in the 1950s, actually it was built at the lowest possible spot. In order to be as required by our design standards, actually, and by FEMA, we have to be a minimum of 18 inches above the BFE, the base floor elevation of Oyster Creek. We are actually crossing at the highest spot that crosses right there over Oyster Creek in that location. So for that reason, actually, because we are crossing a little bit higher, the bridge is going to increase about 20 feet in length.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer?
Hi, what company did we use to inspect the bridge?
Pardon me?
The company that we used to inspect the bridge?
It's a company called Deacon Engineering LLC. They are specialized structural engineering companies. They have extensive experience with text dot bridges, basically. That's their main line of business.
Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Jorge, I'm assuming that with the airport runway closed during the evenings, there's some revenue impact. Did we look at what the possibility would be of accelerating the timeline to minimize the revenue impact at the airport?
If I may pass that question to the airport staff here, that they probably can answer better. But one of the reasons to select night work is because it will have less impact on the airport. But
right.
Of our construction projects where we do have to close the runway, we do them at night just because it does impact us less. I mean, the short answer to your question is no, we did not do a study, but we have done it in the past because it does it doesn't affect our business as much. The majority of our business is during the daylight hours.
But there's 4 months that we won't have any night business. No ramp fees, nobody stopping over at night to get gas or anything.
We can take a look at it and get back with you if you would like, but it's very minimal impact. It's part of our Good Neighbor program where we don't encourage flights to come in, even though we can. I mean, our tower operating hours, they close at 10 o'clock, so it's very minimal.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
And that's Elizabeth Rosenbaum, the Assistant Director of Aviation at Sugar Land Regional Airport.
Mr. Porter, the closing of the runway is only required when we have the crane up. That will be only during the construction of the piers and the abutments of the bridge, which means probably won't be more than 2 weeks at the time. So total altogether won't be more than probably less than a month.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll make a motion to approve. I'll get a second by Kermali. You vote this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Item number 7B, consideration of an action on authorizing the execution of a contract with Wimberly Glass Works, Inc. in the amount of $43,192.94 for the city's 60th anniversary commemorative art project with funding from the Sugar Land 4B Corporation CIP MU 1907 for a total contract amount of $63,192.94. Ms. Teresa Preza, Assistant Director of Economic Development. Teresa.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are here tonight to review the City Hall Atrium Public Art Project commemorating the city's 60th anniversary. We will be providing information for council consideration of the artist's contract in the amount of $43,192.94. Of note, funding is coming from the Sugar Land 4B Corporation, which is restricted revenues, and no general property tax dollars will be utilized for this project. Just a little background on the project itself. It was identified as a public art opportunity during the development of the public art plan, which was ultimately adopted by City Council in December of 2016. With City Hall being a major focal point of Town Square, we wanted to commission an art piece to celebrate the city's key milestone. When envisioning the actual art project itself, we wanted a signature piece that related to the architectural space, materials, color, and lighting of the atrium, becoming part of a public art icon for city befitting of the stature of City Hall, conveying Sugar Land's forward-looking attitude, reinforcing the connection between public art and Sugar Land's most important destinations, such as City Hall, and overall just beautifying the public facility itself. As a standard practice for many of our art projects, the Parks Board reviewed the project plan and made recommendations on the selection panel members. Post that meeting, we released the request for proposals, of which we received a total of 41 responses in August. Then in September, the selection panel met to review all proposals and determine the ultimate recommendation. Last month, Parks Board reviewed the final recommended artist and unanimously voted to recommend Mr. Tim DeYoung with Wimberly Glassworks. He has owned and operated Wimberly Glassworks Studio in Texas for more than 27 years. His work has been featured in luxury and commercial properties nationally, such as in cities like Denver, Baltimore, Los Angeles, and more locally within the Houston region at the Texas Children's Hospital Pavilion for Women. With us tonight, we have Mr. DeYoung and the project manager on the project, Vanessa DeYoung, as well. For City Hall, Mr. DeYoung's proposal envisioned a dynamic, welcoming, three-dimensional art installation that engages with the public from both within City Hall and Town Square, as described specifically from his proposal. Artwork in glass captures the emotional influence of color, the liveliness of light, and dynamic form. This piece would create a meaningful reflection of Sugar Land's growth over the past 60 years. The vibrant green and gold colors and the organic textures in the glass complement the surrounding wood tones, furniture, and decor. The dynamic layout provides a sense of growth and upward momentum to the space, exuberantly welcoming visitors in. The artist will use high-quality American-made components in the installations, and each of the close to 200 glass pieces will be crafted by hand at the studio here in Texas. Upon review from the selection panel's comments included, the artwork is dynamic and subtlety of the color is harmonious with City Hall design. The vertical elements in the green color poetically references the architectural history of our city. There's a strong approach from outside of City Hall as well, which plays off of the design on the flooring. It's a perfect scale with a Texas artist who has a strong resume and experience providing a very professional proposal. And with us tonight, we actually have Barbara Brushen, who is part of the selection panel and also is the Parks Board Chair. Thank you, Barbara. We also hired an engineering firm to define the space and volume of the ideal size of the project, as well as take into consideration the safety parameters and accessibility of the art piece. We wanted to ensure it was viewable from the first and second floors of City Hall as well as the plaza. As you can see, the art piece is in line with the parameters established. Other considerations were its maintenance, which we anticipated to be minimal due to the material of choice, glass. We do anticipate some light dusting perhaps annually. There will be no fading or degradation expected because the actual color will be infused into the glass itself. And there will be no motion as there is no airflow currently in that space. And even if there was, each piece will be separated with enough distance that it doesn't become a wind chime. Upon contract approval, the artist will begin the actual fabrication process with the goal to actually install the art piece in early January. In between then, from mid to late December, we are going to be doing actual structural enhancements to the ceiling to be able to anchor the actual art piece into the City Hall atrium. Our goal with the installation plan is to collaborate with engineering, facilities, city secretary's office, and many other departments, and the artist itself to establish the impact to City Hall during the construction. With that, our goal is to initiate during the weekend and not peak times to minimize any impact that we have during regular business hours. Staff recommends approval of the artist's contract in the amount of $43,192.94 with Wimberly Glassworks, Inc. for the art fabrication, which is part of a total expenditure of $63,192.94 with Wimberly Glassworks, Inc. from a prior contract for design and installation planning. Once again, all of this is funded through Sugar Land 4B funds, quality of life, and no general property tax dollars will be utilized. Any clarifying questions for staff?
Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. About how much will the final piece weigh?
That is a great question for the artist.
Mr. DeJong? Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. It's right around 2,000 pounds, but that includes 3/4 inch plywood and a new layer of 5/8 fire stop drywall over the plywood, which we will use to anchor the glass piece to the ceiling.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, based on the rendering, I think it's going to be a stunning piece and look forward to seeing it in real life.
Yeah, it's actually an abstract sugar cane.
Beautiful.
Any other questions while I'm here?
Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. This was, as noted in the, I thought in the presentation, that the 4B Corporation reviewed this proposal and was excited about it and fully endorsed moving forward. So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay. Masha?
Just the structural enhancements, is that part of the 63,000?
No, that will be a separate contract with the contractor itself.
Not all inclusive.
Correct.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. I've got a motion, I've got a second. Barbara, thank you. Thank you for your work on awarding the contract. Mr. DeJong, we look forward to getting that work installed. Joseph, I see you're out there. Teresa, we've got Joseph. Lindsay was here a minute ago. I'm not sure. Oh, there she is. Yeah, okay. Recognize both of them. I've got a motion. I've got a second. Any other questions? Vote this time, please. And it passes 7-0. Thank you all. Joseph, Lindsay, great to see y'all. Item number 8, workshop 8A, review of and discussion on the wayfinding program. We've got Monique Johnson, Transportation and Mobility Innovation Manager. Monique, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. So the wayfinding program is something that the city has had for several years. It's been a while since we've been in front of council to talk about it. We're moving forward with a few projects, including 2 of our trail bond projects that are going to have some components of the wayfinding in them. So we figured we'd provide an update to you guys tonight. So what I'll do is talk a little bit about the program background, and then we'll go over the new interdepartmental wayfinding policy that we have been working on. And then we'll talk a little bit about the projects that we have planned for FY20 and some of the next steps. So the purpose of the wayfinding program is to direct people to key destinations, improve traffic safety, reinforce the city's brand and boundaries, reduce visual clutter, and maintain the city's aesthetics while meeting TxDOT standards for design. So in 2011, the city had a strategic project to develop the comprehensive wayfinding sign program. So these are those blue signs that you see out on our roadways today. So this program focused primarily on vehicular traffic, and it also identified locations for the wayfinding signs. It established a list of the major destinations in the city, and as well as criteria for identifying those major destinations. It also came up with the standard design that you see for the directional signs. In FY15, we had a strategic project related to the pedestrian and bicycle master plan implementation. This project also identified locations for wayfinding signs along trails. And so this resulted in a CIP project for wayfinding for pedestrian and bicycle routes. So in 2016, staff reevaluated the program and did an update. We had several new key destinations built, so that includes Smart Financial Center, the Sugarland Heritage Museum and Visitor Center, Cullinan Park. And so we wanted to incorporate these new destinations into the wayfinding program. Another thing that we experienced were several requests for wayfinding signs. So we figured between the new destinations, the requests that we received, we pretty much start reevaluating the program and tying it all together. And so what it did was it looked at new recommendations for those locations, but also provided some recommendations for additional wayfinding signs. So what we did was we looked into the recreational and cultural interest area guide signs. So these are those big, large brown signs that you guys see on frontage roads. These are typically the standard DOT designed signs. And so what TxDOT allows is some personalization of these signs, and it would be incorporated in the city's wayfinding program. So what we did was we came up with a concept, and that's the blue sign that you see at the bottom, and we did some preliminary reviews with TxDOT to kind of get a feel for, if this is something that they would allow on our roadways. And so we got some preliminary approvals, but we still need to go through the full review and approval process with them. So as we began to implement some of the program, we had several policy questions that arose. What those questions are: how do we approach wayfinding holistically? We have wayfinding for vehicles, and we also have wayfinding for our trails. What criteria should we use to identify our major destinations? Are there other types of destinations to identify? What types of wayfinding do we need or want for trails? How should we prioritize our wayfinding projects? How should we fund the wayfinding program going forward? And how should we refine our process for addressing any wayfinding requests that we get? So we developed an interdepartmental wayfinding policy. What this policy does is it refines the criteria that we use to identify major and minor destinations. It provides definitions for wayfinding features for both roadways and trails, because it's not just limited to signs. There are other types of wayfinding elements as well. It also refines the process for addressing wayfinding requests, and it provides some direction for how to fund the wayfinding program going forward, and then it establishes new methodologies for prioritizing wayfinding projects in the future. So the first CIP project we have is ST 1802. This is to construct 13 additional smaller blue signs that we see currently, and that's to add some of those new destinations that we have. And it also includes building, designing and constructing 3 of these larger guide signs on 59 for Smart Financial Center. So here's a breakdown of what we plan to do. The map shows the primary routes in blue, which is guidance we've used from developing the policy. So though anything that's a primary entry into the city, that gets first priority for a sign. The green routes that you see on the map are our secondary routes of entry into the city. So that includes University, Austin Parkway, those roads, and those get second priority. And anything beyond that is third priority. And so we have $275,000 available in SL4B funds to fund for FY20. The second project is wayfinding for pedestrian and bicycle routes. What we need to do with this one is develop a standard set of design for our trails. Right now, we don't really have anything to go off of, so this project would focus on designing the wayfinding for trails and coming up with this standard family similar to what we have for vehicles. So our intent is to develop 2 to 3 concepts to choose from, and we'll bring back those concepts to council to workshop through and kind of decide what we want to go, where we want to go with those concepts. Once we get the design figured out, we want to do a pilot area, a test area on the north side and the ditch A22 trails. So we picked this location because it has access to several destinations, parks, several schools, and even a neighborhood activity center. And it just has an overall connectivity component where this would be a good test pilot for installing some of those new wayfinding features for trails. And so we have about $115,000 available in SL4B to fund this project as well. So next steps for wayfinding, we are in a process of developing a contract for design services. Both of those contracts are under $50,000 for both the vehicle and pedestrian wayfinding. And then November 20th, we will go to SL4B for a public hearing to get a funding resolution for the construction of both of those projects. And with that, I'll answer any clarifying questions.
Perfect. Carol.
Thank you, Mayor. On the wayfinding signs for the pedestrian and bike trails, have you thought about having like a little map of the trail and with a star that says you are here on that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, on some of like on the trails, like the pedestrian or the biking trails, on a couple of your examples, it looks like there was a map on the sign, like the one, looks like maybe like the one second from the right or the second from the left. Depending on the complicatedness, I guess, of the ped bike route, that might be something you might want to consider, is have a little map of where the trails are, and you are here, depending on the complexity or the length of the trail. Just so
Yes,
people will have an
is-
idea of, where they are and how far it is to the next point, something like that, or how many miles.
Yes, that is the intent. When we design these, we want to have that as an option, depending on if it's the beginning of the trail, for instance, we would have a sign or some sort of structure that shows the overall map
Okay,
of the
good.
trail and the destinations along that trail. And so, you are here, so that way people can pinpoint where they're at on the trail. But we'll also have these components throughout the trail so they can have, they can identify where they're at, so like a mile marker, or, this way is Smart Financial Center. So there'll be multiple components of the trail wayfinding to address some of those user needs on the trails.
Great, thank you.
Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. In the policy that was developed on how to respond to requests, what's the thinking on businesses? So in the past, we've had businesses that say, hey, I want a sign pointing to my business, all right? What in this policy, what's staff thinking on whether we entertain those or not? And if we do, how do we decide?
So we have a definition for businesses. So the definition has to be either a business park or a campus. And there's criteria for the size of the business. I believe it's at least 100 acres. It must have a certain amount of facilities within that development. So it eliminates, individual businesses asking for wayfinding signs. There's that criteria built into that. And then if they do meet that criteria, we do have a separate process to either enter into some sort of agreement between the city and that business on cost share or whatever we want to do. But there's a template built into the policy to help spark that conversation.
Follow-up, Mayor.
Follow-up.
If we were to entertain something like that, a wayfinding sign to a major campus, as you described it, would the business have to pay?
If we decide we want them to pay, it's open for us to negotiate with them. So if they want to pay fully for the sign, like if they want to expedite the process, they have that option to do that, and we would just enter into an agreement with that business, and they would have to follow our design standards for that sign as well.
That was even my next question. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? I wanted to call out Ms. May. I see that the example here is the Northwest Arkansas Razorback Greenway wayfinding. Very strategic, Ms. May, very strategic. Thank you, Monique.
You're welcome.
Item number 8B, review of and discussion on the 2013 Parks Bond projects. We have Joe Cheshire, our Director of Parks and Rec, and Monique Johnson, Transportation and Mobility Innovation Manager. Joe.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Monique and I are going to team up on a review of the Parks Bond projects because there will be a number of contracts coming forward in the next few council meetings to get the design work going on the next phase of these projects. As you'll recall, back in November of 2013, voters passed $31.5 million for Parks Bonds. The projects that we've worked on to date and completed are the Brazos River Park Phase 1 project, where we held our Trees Across Sugarland last Saturday, and the festival site there adjacent to Brazos River Park, the Crown Festival site. And then the hike and bike trail projects, the trail around Imperial Park and connecting to Lake Point, that is already completed, and the other projects still waiting to be designed and completed are the First Colony Trails and the Ditch H Trails. As you'll recall, in this year's budget, there was a homestead exemption that was raised to 12% from 10% to offset the cost to homeowners for the construction dollars for these projects, or the design and construction dollars for these projects. Okay, so remaining funds are in $10.26 million for the projects that remain, and there's an additional 1.9 million that has been issued but not been spent yet. The projects that we'll be moving forward with are the Brazos River Park Phase 2, First Colony Trail, and the Ditch H Trail. And so these are the projects that have had some preliminary design on them. I've had some community input on them, and we're ready to move forward based on the input that we've received. So we've applied that information to the design contracts that will be coming forward. First project we'll talk about is the Brazos River Park Phase 2. The project consists of a concrete road and trail to connect the existing Sugarland Memorial Park there from the existing roundabout there at Commonwealth and University Boulevard at the entrance to Memorial Park, and lead you up to the existing road that goes through Brazos River Park. This will be a real key connection to the two parks, not only to link the parks together so users can fully utilize both facilities, easily accessing between the two sites. It will also provide good access to the Crown Festival site, Crown Festival Park, for activities and things festivals that go on there. The project will consist also of a low water crossing here, and that's required because there's an outfall structure on Lid 17's levee right here adjacent to the University of Houston campus that flows through a channel down here to the creek. Or not to the creek, but the Brazos River. So that'll be a low water crossing that'll be engineered there, and then the roadway connection between the two parks. Originally, we had looked at expanding this as the Mid-Lake project. It included a lake expansion, pavilion, boathouse structure, and additional parking, in addition to the roadway connection between the two parks. With ongoing studies of the Brazos River, it was determined that it would be best just to focus on the road connection and road and trail connection right now, and then look at this project at a later date. Here's examples of what the project is anticipated to look like when it's finished. This is the view of the existing roadway and trail through the Brazos River Park right now, and this design would be just followed as it goes through to the rest of the project. And the road is being laid out along the highest elevations there on the Brazos River Park, which have been areas that have not seen significant flooding when the water comes up. So we're very confident that it's a higher enough elevations that it will, in a major rain event, it could go underwater like this road did and trail did. But as you can see, they responded fine to the issues from the high water, and we would anticipate the same issues with the trail extension. So on November 19th, you will see a contract with Kimley Horn in the amount of $175,100, which will be for the design of the road and trail extension. It'll also include some tree planting and irrigation along with it. So we'll have a very continuous look through the park as to what's there right now. And with that, I will hand it over to Monique to go over the trails.
All right, so we'll start off with the First Colony Trail project. In the original scope, the bond called for 3.5 miles of trails, approximately 10 feet wide, 2 pedestrian bridges, and 4 trailheads. So this is the original trail route for First Colony Trail. This northern portion, we would have 2 connections, one from Lexington Boulevard and then another from Austin Parkway to connect over to the existing Woodstream Trail. And we would build a pedestrian bridge to get across. And then on the southern portion of the project, we have a trail connection behind the Colony Park neighborhood. This also includes another pedestrian bridge on the north side connecting from Mesquite Trail to Mesquite Park. So as we moved forward with the trail, we began hearing several concerns from stakeholders on the original design. They had concerns about the trail route along Colony Park near the ditch. There were concerns about safe crossings on Sweetwater Boulevard, which were not addressed in the original design. There were also some concerns about the narrow existing sidewalks on Sweetwater. So right now they're about 3 to 4 feet wide. We also had some concerns about the location of the trailheads and the design of the wayfinding. So we decided to put the project on hold to address some of these concerns and pretty much do an extensive public engagement. So we reached out to everyone who is directly impacted by the project. So that included Fort Bend ISD, specifically their police department and their school crossing guards that are in that area. We met with the Colony Bend Elementary administration staff. We met with both Colony Bend and Colony Park HOAs. And we also met with Fort Bend County Lid 2 because it's going along the ditch and they had some concerns as well. And we also met with St. Lawrence Church. So some of the actions that we took based on their feedback, we developed a new concept for the trail route to go along Sweetwater Boulevard. We also developed a new set of design standards to address mid-block crossings on Sweetwater Boulevard. And we also developed a new interdepartmental wayfinding policy, which I just presented about to address some of the wayfinding features on the trail. So the revised scope, it's still 3.5 miles of trail, 10 feet wide. There are 3 pedestrian bridges, a below-grade crossing at Sweetwater Boulevard, 8 wayfinding features, and this is all based on the feedback that we heard from the community and also a recommendation from Parks Board back in 2018. So the revised scope for the First Colony Trail is primarily in the southern portion. The northern portion stays the same, as well as this ped bridge. What we have here is a below-grade crossing, so this is going underneath Sweetwater Boulevard. Here's a blow-up version of that, where you'd go below Sweetwater Boulevard and connect back up to a new pedestrian bridge to get across Ditch A. The current bridge right now, it's about 3 feet wide, so we figured we'd put a new 10-foot wide pedestrian bridge to allow both pedestrians and bicycles to get across. And so what we'll do is just widen the existing sidewalk on Sweetwater Boulevard and Austin Parkway to connect back to Mesquite Trail. The highlighted area in yellow is also the area that's eligible for the Safe Routes to School grant that we applied for. If we get the grant, we'll be able to build the entire First Colony Trail project. If we don't get it, then we would have to build what we can with what we have left after design. And so if we do get the grant, that does include an additional pedestrian bridge that we heard from the stakeholders that they wanted to connect over to First Colony Middle School as well. So the next steps for First Colony Trail, we will have a design contract with EHRA Engineering in January. We're currently negotiating that cost right now. And then construction will follow once we finish with design. So the next project is Ditch H Trail. In the original scope, we called for 5 miles of trail, 10 feet wide, 2 pedestrian bridges, and 4 trailheads. The original route was going to be divided into 2 phases. So phase 1 would start at Imperial Park on the north side of the city and come all the way down to Lexington Boulevard. In phase 2, we would continue from Lexington Boulevard down Ditch H and then across Ditch H and over to Sweetwater Boulevard behind Clements High School. Some of the constraints that we have recognized as we started some preliminary discussions about Ditch H were Lid 17, they have an existing pump station in Telfair, and they don't want anyone crossing anywhere near the pump station, so that's a constraint that we have to address. So we're having to tie into Telfair's existing trails and then come back on the other side of the pump station to connect back to Ditch H to continue south. The other constraint that we are dealing with is the new Lid 2 pump station, which is being built in a direct path of where we were going to cross Ditch H on the southern portion of the trail. And so with the pump station being in the location that it is, it increases potential cost for the bridge over Ditch H. And also Centerpoint is putting a new gas line easement along the route behind Clements High School, which is in the direct path of where we plan to put the trail on the southern portion. So the revised scope for Ditch H is to construct phase 1 only. So this is connecting from Imperial Park all the way down to Lexington Boulevard. And as you can see in this area, this is where we will go around Lid 17's pump station to connect to the Trails and Telfair, and then come back down to Lexington Boulevard. What we plan to do is a route study for the southern portion because of all the constraints that we're learning about before we move forward. To decide if we want to move forward with designing the southern portion of the trail.
Mr.
Alan.
Melanie, would you clarify on the map your crossings of Highway 6 and 59, how you're dealing with those?
Sure. So we are going to go underneath Highway 6 and 59. So those will be below-grade crossings as well, just a lot larger.
Mr. Mayor, I think that's a real significant enhancement.
Yes.
Providing that much safer accessibility for people to get to a wider array of facilities within the city.
Yeah, which was one of the comments that I think Councilmember Porter made originally, which was connection to the, from north to the south.
Yes.
Go ahead, Minnie.
Okay. So next steps for Ditch H, on November 19th, we have a contract for design services and the route study with Pacheco Coke in the amount of $587,300. Once we get the contract executed, we will start our extensive public engagement with all of the lids that are involved, the Drainage District, TxDOT, Centerpoint, all of the HOAs and POAs that are going to be impacted by this trail. So it will be a very long and thorough public engagement process for this project. And then once we get through the design and public engagement, we'll follow up with construction. And I'll take any clarifying questions.
I've got one question. Who's Pacheco Cough? I've never heard of that firm.
Pacheco Coke. They are, well, I know they're a multidisciplinary firm. They are working on, I think, another project of ours as well. But I think they're working on either a drainage project or a water line. Public safety? Training facility, okay. So they're on other projects that we're working on currently.
Engineering firm, architectural firm, both?
I think they're both.
I can't speak to, they were on one of the phases at the Brazos River Park project, primarily the landscape and irrigation phase. They're multidisciplined. I know we worked with their engineers and landscape architects as well on those projects. So from park standpoint, we're familiar with working with them.
Okay. Jesse.
Just to add a little bit, they have offices in Dallas and Houston area as well.
How many people in the Houston area?
That I don't remember on top of my head. Yeah, they are working on the roadway design for the public training facility right now, doing the design.
Okay. Carol?
Thank you, Mayor. So the safe routes to school, that decision, we'll find out if we get that by what, is it year end?
Yes, so the update on Safe Routes to School, we will know by spring of 2020.
Oh, spring,
Yes,
okay.
we recently received an update, and they extended the notification date. They received over 400 applications, well beyond the amount of funding that's available, and so they're trying to narrow down all the projects for that. So I think that's why they had to extend it.
Okay, and so the design study on Ditch H, you said it's only going to be for phase one. It's not going to include phase two then at this time?
The design study is for phase two, so the entire southern portion of Ditch H. So anything south of Lexington Boulevard.
Oh, so that is included then?
Yes, that's included in the contract.
Okay, and they'll
yes.
figure out a solution around the Fort Bend County Lid 2
Yes.
new pump station and the easement and everything then. Okay, and what's the timing for the study?
So the contract will be in front of you on November 19th. Hopefully, we expect to be at least a year before we get done with design and the study. So at minimum a year before we can come up with a conclusion.
Thank you.
Steve?
Just curious, how much do you think it's going to cost to go under Highway 6?
Just for that portion under Highway 6?
Yeah.
We can probably get you an answer to that, Steve.
Okay.
They may not have that right
I'd be
off.
curious.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Monique. Item number 9, City Council, City Manager reports. I'm going to recommend that we defer, and we're going to move to item number 10, closed executive session. A, Section 551074, public officers, and B, Section 551074, personnel matters. And we're going to recess into the dining room.
Let's take a 5-minute break before we.
Well, we don't have to, that's right. 10-minute break, Carol says. Any election results?
I'm sorry, say it again.
It was 72.68% was for Proposition A, that's 2,759 votes.
So A was 72.46?
72.6.
These are just early votes.
Yeah, it's just early votes, yeah. But they'll mirror what is on regular, too. So A was 4.
72.68.
B,
B is 64.81,
looking good. C
71.78,
and D.
61.48.
There we go.
See, you got work to do, Mr. Goodrum.
Hey, Mike. Good to see you.
How long you been in town?
That'll be the same. That may move a percent.
They just kicked your
You know what I almost wanted to say about the
Package for fiscal year 2020. I make a motion that we increase Allen's base pay to $300,000. That will include a $13,000 car allowance and a $24,000 one-time lump sum payment. That's the motion. Do we have a second? Got a second by Gandhi. You vote at this time, please.
Thank you very much.
The old mouse is,
Wait.
mouse is around here somewhere. There we go. It passes 7-0. Yeah, there wasn't much discussion on that, was there, Al?
No discussion needed, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Item number 11B, consideration of an action on an appointment of and compensation package for Mike Goodwin, city manager. I make the motion that Mike Goodwin be hired as the new city manager for the city of Sugar Land at a compensation package of $360,590. I've got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. Who is second? Porter? That's a big one, Porter. We got a motion by Zimmerman, second by Porter. If you'll vote at this time, please. 7-0. Congratulations, Mike. Mike, you want to say something at the podium? Himesh wants you to get over there and get something done.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. First off, I'd like to thank you for having the confidence in me and giving me the opportunity to come back home to where I started as an intern and give me the opportunity to work with this tremendous city, tremendous council. The staff is amazing, and I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for the staff, because they're the ones that have done an amazing job. I've been able to be lifted up by them. Also want to thank my current city, the city of Coral Springs, who gave me my first shot at being a city manager, and the staff there that made me look good as well, and it was a great opportunity for. Also like to thank my family, because I think the city manager job is a hard job. I think the harder job is being married to one or being a kids to them. So my family's always been there for me, and I wanted to thank them, but I'm looking forward to getting to work. It looks like we've got a lot to do, and I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity, and look forward to getting to work with you and with staff.
Well said, Mike.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Just for people that don't know, before we close, it appears that items or propositions A, B, C, and D all passed. So we thank the city of Sugar Land and our residents for having the confidence in us to do another $91 million in important projects for this city. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Thank you all very much.